our country's ability to deter actions by malign actors like China. And so the lack of deterrence, we're looking at a situation now where basically what are we seeing out of the United States when incidents like this occur? What are we seeing? We're seeing some strongly worded statements that are the same words. And if you go to the statements of the foreign ministry in Beijing, they use the same words. It's we've got win-win. This is protecting our territorial integrity, yada yada yada. And on our side, we do the same thing. You see, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen the term shoulder to shoulder, or our relationship is ironclad, yada yada yada. And so that concept of using strong words is no longer a deterrent. And we can see the breakdown of our country's ability to deter malign actors. I mean, look at how the current administration has failed with Putin, has failed in the Red Sea. Maybe it started with the withdrawal in Afghanistan. You see the failure of deterrence operating around Taiwan, around the Senkaku Islands, around Japan, and certainly with the Philippines. So the deterrence is tied to the red line, and it's not there. Period. The Philippines trying to establish a red line, and so you're right. Marcos at Shangri-La said, death of a Philippine national would be something that we would consider to trigger the Mutual Defense Treaty. But that's not much of a red line. And this sure looks like an attack. And I guess the folks at B are saying, well, it wasn't, they weren't using munitions, they weren't using firearms, so maybe it's not an attack. And I think there's great reluctance on the part of the Philippine leadership to invoke the Mutual Defense Treaty. I think that they are trying to solve this problem with their territorial integrity on their own.
It really reminds me of when Biden called Xi Jinping in, I think it was March 2023. He called him, he said, if you provide material support for Russia and its war in Ukraine, there's going to be such and such consequences. And China absolutely has provided material support. So the U.S. kind of waffled and said, oh, no. What we meant is lethal aid, not material support, lethal aid. And then the UK intelligence comes out and says they're providing lethal aid. And the U.S. response is, no, they aren't. We haven't seen that. So it's no wonder that Putin and Xi think they have the run of the world.
Well, and I think there's one other concept here, Chris, that is, I don't think you've heard it before. I know I haven't seen it in the media, but this is an observation that I've made with long experience in the Philippines, and that is that there is a mental shift going on in the Philippines. And in order to portray this shift, I think one piece of evidence that I would give you is that, in terms of on the economic side, the Philippine economy is really on fire. It's doing great. In 2022, they had a GDP increase of something like 7.6%. China was at 3%. In 2023, Philippines was at 5.6% and China was at 5.2%. If you believe the GDP numbers coming out of China, which nobody with any economic or business background really does. So that the Philippines is moving fast out of its current World Bank categorization as a lower middle income country. And President Marcos's drive is by 2025 to get it into the category within the World Bank statistics of a upper middle class economy. Now, I don't think they're going to make it in 2025, probably by 2026, but they're very close right now. And the reason I am portraying this to you is this is evidence, it's symbolic of a mind shift that's going on in the Philippines. They are moving from what I call the old colonial, developing third world country, that mentality, which is what our leaders, both in the military and the political side, this is the way they visualize the Philippines. Colonial mentality, developing third world country, they're always looking for handouts. That's the way the mental attitude is in the United States. And of course, that's very damaging in their interactions and so forth. So I describe that whole attitude as a little brown brother complex. And you see this in the way that some of our military leaders talk about the Philippines. They make fun of them. They make fun of their maintenance ability. They give them old equipment, which is we can't even maintain it in our own country, and then they make fun of them because they can't maintain it. They don't have the latest and the greatest. But here's the shift that's going on that's very sophisticated is that internally within the country, they are moving from this developing country, lower middle income status to a middle power. Now, that changes the dynamics big time in terms of the relationship with the United States, with its new trilateral alliance with Japan, and even with China. And so, what do I have as evidence of that? I think we're seeing the Philippines starting to, they really are pushing to upgrade on the military, the defense side. And this is a very significant mental shift within the country to go from this developing country status or this mindset into becoming a middle power. Now, a middle power like a baby Australia or some other countries. The difference in this, the reason I bring this up is that the Philippines is in a position to help the United States. I know that is not the attitude in Washington, but the Philippines can supply human resources in very sophisticated areas that we don't even have. What are those sophisticated areas? One of them is in an understanding and a pushback in the whole field of political warfare. Why? Because they're in the fight and our folks are not. Another area is in cognitive warfare, how to respond, how to push back. Why? Because we don't do cognitive warfare in our country. We're not even prepared for that. So on the human resources side, Philippines can contribute. Also in manufacturing and supplying defense type equipment, if they were to get their defense industry up and flying, they could become a very strong supportive ally.